Hey everybody, Matthew Morris at Wood Studio, and I just finished building these 3 bench jigs, the T-square, a long planing support, and a shooting board. And I thought to myself, where am I going to put these? And I said, you know what? I love to have a floating shelf that's just like the floating shelves in my tool cabinet to kind of tie everything together into this hand tool corner over here with the bench and everything else. So let me walk you through my process of building this floating shelf. First thing I do is I head over to the bandsaw and I take a piece of scrap from my lumber, and with a piece of scrap from my lumber rack, I rip that to just a little bit over 4 1/4 inches wide. Then, over at the jointer planer combo machine, I joint one face nice and flat and then square up one edge. In planer mode, I thickness this to 3/4 inch or just a little bit thicker. An inch would even be fine. Then, I head over to the table saw and I rip my piece 4 1/8 inches wide because the final shelf will be 4 inches wide. Then I cut my shelf to length. For me, I'm going for 3 feet. Then I draw a series of 4 lines, 2 inches in from each side and then 10 inches in from each side. And then using a square, I bring those lines all the way around to the top. And then I come in and mark center. Now I'm going to be using some 1/4 inch brass stock left over from the hand plane project to hold the 2 parts of my shelf together. And I'm just going to drill in 2 5/8 inches deep. Your depth may be completely different because I'm working around this knot that I have in the wood. Make sure to get in there and eject those chips as often as you can. You don't want to have this clog up. That's going to change the direction the drill bit is drilling in your wood. With my blade at 25 degrees and roughly 3/8 inch or a little bit more away from the fence, and make a pass to cut an under bevel on the bottom of my shelf. And then with my miter gauge, I start making passes until I get the angles to match up, creating another under bevel on the edges of the shelf. And then at the bench, I'll do a little bit of finesse work to get those angles to match perfectly. And then over the table saw, with the blade down very low, I'm going to make a couple passes, flipping the board 180 degrees and make a little V-notch towards the front of the shelf. And then I make a rip cut 1 3/4 deep, compensating for the knot in my shelf. Now I want my shelf just above my outlet because I don't want to lose access to the outlet. So what I do is I bring in a piece of really thin plywood and I butt up to the end of the wall. And I come in and I draw a scribe mark using my pencil along the length of the piece. And then over the bandsaw, I cut to my line. Before I started filming, I actually already made this profile here for the wall. And the exact same process I used to make this is the process that I just showed you. And then using the piece I made earlier, I come over to the wall, bring up my piece, and mark out my studs. Keep track of all these lines, I'm going to write an S next to the line where the studs are. And what I've done so far is I brought up this piece and I found where my holes are, and I decided where I wanted the end of the shelf to be relative to the wall, and I made marks there, and that way I can line this up, find where my studs are, bring some lines up, and I can take this piece, lift it up and over, and line it up against the edges, and then draw the shape of the wall on it. Now once I've done that, I'm going to take my square here, bring up the lines for my studs, flip over, and carry the line all the way around. Now I'm going to be using a number 10 2.5 inch screw, and I have it about where I want it to be because I got to account for the drywall and then actually getting into the stud. So what I want to do before I do any other work is to come in, make a mark for the head of the screw. I'm going to flip this over and then find center. Then at the drill press I use a Forstner bit to drill down to the depth that I've marked. And then referencing off the center of the hole from the Forstner bit, I use another bit to drill a pilot hole for my screws. And now very slowly and very deliberately, I cut along the line that is the shape of my wall for the back of this piece. And now I spend a little bit of time sanding the two parts of my shelf all the way up through the grits. And then I just rounded over the edges a little bit to just get them nice and soft to the touch. Using a hacksaw, I cut off 4 pieces of my brass rod. And then at the sanding station, I rounded over the ends. Now, just like the cabinet behind me, I'm going to use some boiled linseed oil to finish my shelf. As it's drying a little bit, I'm going to use a hammer to help start getting these pins into the back of the shelf. Just to help myself out a little bit, I'm going to come in and chamfer the holes on the second half of the shelf. I let everything dry for a few hours, and I came back and I brought up my piece of wood at the front of the wall, and I brought my piece up and matched where its exact position was on that. And I've already started my screws, and I came in and I drilled my holes and drilled my bar into the wall. And then I brought over the other half of the shelf and a deadbolt hammer and hit everything home. And then I thought to myself, maybe I shouldn't have the T-square on the shelf, maybe I should hang it from the wall. And if a hole that I made at the drill press, I hung my T-square. All right, well that came out really well. I'm really happy with the shelf, and I have a little bit of extra room. I put my little Bluetooth speaker and my iPhone right here so that when I'm in the shop, the iPhone's got a home, and if I feel like playing some music, I can connect it to the speaker. If I need to charge the speaker, there's power here. And more importantly, everything is up above, it's out of the way, it's got a home, and along with that, very importantly, is this outlet is totally free and there's nothing here. That's pretty much it. In hindsight, just kind of looking at it, maybe a little bit deeper would have been better, but I didn't want to overcrowd this little corner right here. So as always, please subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and hit that thumbs up button if you like this video. If you're watching this on Facebook, hit the like button, share your timeline, and head over to the MM Wood Studio page and like us there as well. And as always, have a great week in your shop. Hey everybody, Matthew Moore's the MM Wood Studio, and then this the long support, flat planing support for the bench. Duh. Now I've got a T-square, a long planing support. I have a T-square, a long support planing. It's not gonna shape or warp. I gotta start this over.